right, hello everyone. I'm Dora. I'm the organizer of this group. I come on here live every Tuesday morning to talk a little bit about, we talk about all sorts of different topics. Um, oops, I clicked something weird here. Here we go. So we talk about a different topic every week. So you can think of this as a mini training session. Happy to answer any questions that might have come through throughout the week. Or if you're joining me live, unfortunately, I keep having problems with Facebook that I'm not seeing comments coming through. So let's see if it will rectify itself soon enough. It's not showing up on my phone either, so all right. Well, let's see what happens. Today we're talking about running away from chaos. So we likely all have a memory of a time when we felt everything was perhaps working against us. We may have felt helpless even in our situation at one point. Maybe we felt confused, disoriented, maybe even desperate to return to a state of stability, peace, or even just a sense of neutrality. So oftentimes we are in the state of chaos when nothing feels right. When our expectations come crumbling down, we may be overwhelmed with emotions. So the problem is that we have never really been taught how to process our emotions. And the normal thing or the instinctive thing then to do is to try to push away these uncomfortable emotions. Because, why would we want to feel these horrible emotions anyway? Some of these emotions that come up could even be painful. And as a protective mechanism, our body tries to protect us, right? Now, unfortunately, when we don't deal with our emotions, they tend to hang around until we deal with them. Even though sometimes we may find that we get temporary relief from preoccupying ourselves with other things, distractions such as work or exercise or even getting into other people's business and helping them out and helping them with their issues. Or we may engage in other behaviors that help to numb our feelings, right? These could be alcohol, drugs, mindlessly watching TV or browsing the internet, social media, and so forth. So, even though these things could keep us occupied for a time, the issue is that we can't keep our feelings at bay forever. Whatever we don't deal with will come back to us over and over again and more forceful each time until we get the message. And that is to acknowledge the emotions, help to process and integrate them so that we can truly move forward. Now, you may have heard of the term karma. And according to the yogic teachings, karma refers to our actions. Every action leads to a corresponding outcome. And this includes our physical actions, but also our words, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our intentions behind our actions, and so on. So all of these are energy that we put out into the world, and all of them will result in a consequence that we may experience either in the near future or far future, maybe in this lifetime or in the next. So all our experiences in our present moment can be thought of as our past karma or the consequences of past action. And now if we don't do anything consciously to shift or change or alter our situation, it becomes our destiny. We will be destined to repeat our mistakes until we learn our lesson. You see, even though certain emotions are very uncomfortable to experience, by us not addressing them, we harbor them in our unconscious. And we may think that by suppressing or by denying them, we could keep them away, but they actually don't go away. We're just no longer paying attention. We're kind of looking the other way, but they're, all the emotions are still there and they grow. And when the next opportunity comes, maybe a certain person shows up, maybe certain words are said, maybe a certain situation arises, we get triggered somehow, and then the emotions that we thought that we had bottled up will, will come flooding out. And it will arise with more power each time. And we'll continue to repeat until we finally face our emotions and deal with them properly. And this is why running away from our problems don't work. In the long run, we set ourselves up in perpetual cycles of pain, frustration, and suffering. And just when you think one problem is over, another sort of different situation may arise, triggering you. And it's like someone sticking their finger into your old wounds. The situation or the trigger might be different each time, but the emotion that gets triggered or released, that try to break through, you might notice that they're the same, and that you will experience these emotions over and over again, even if the external environment or the triggers may appear to be different each time, but it's triggering the same response from you. And so you won't ever really be free from them until you learn to deal with them. Now, another thing that you may not realize is that it actually takes up so much energy to contain, to try to control or suppress your emotions, than to actually work through them. So imagine moving through life carrying and trying to contain an ever-growing burden of emotions is very tiring, to say the least. And so it's no wonder that not only can we not keep things contained forever, but we're continually expending energy to try to keep everything contained. And the more energy that you use for other things, the less energy that you're going to have for healing, for, spiritual growth, and eventually, even maintaining physical, mental, emotional health and stability. So, if running from our suffering is causing us more suffering, the obvious answer would then be to stop running and to face our problems. Now, I know this is easier said than done. We have not been taught how to process difficult emotions. And as a way to protect ourselves from the pain, like I said before, our bodies have, ingeniously tried to find ways to distract us from the pain, to suppress the pain, to numb out, to build a wall and contain ourselves or separate ourselves from the pain. But like we said before, this is not a long-term solution, and it will sooner or later catch up to you. One thing that we have been conditioned to do is to place judgment on virtually everything we know. This is good, that is bad, or this is right and that is wrong. We also do this with our emotions and feelings. We classify certain emotions as good and okay to experience, or even we strive to experience certain emotions. And then we label other emotions as bad, and we shouldn't have them or express them, or we shouldn't experience them. This sort of thing can create so much fear and anxiety around various emotions that we are bound to experience at some point in our lives. And it kind of keeps us running away from what we call sort of quote unquote negative emotions or feelings. instead of seeing them for what they truly are. They are messengers. They are messengers cautioning us about something that needs our attention. So instead of thinking about your negative emotions as your enemies trying to hurt you, they're actually your allies, alerting you to take appropriate action so that you can break free from old programming or past karma. Another concept that has been conditioned into us is that emotions are somewhat mutually exclusive. While we while we may agree that we have the capacity to feel a few different emotions at the same time, but when we are experiencing intense negative emotions, many people find it very hard to believe that they have the capacity to feel positive emotions in that moment, right? So for instance, when one is angry, one would find it almost impossible to find calm. When one is grieving, they may not believe that they could possibly experience joy. But the truth is, it is totally within our capacity to feel opposite emotions at the same time. But we have not been taught how to do so. Now, the good news is that this can be taught and we can retrain our nervous system. One of the first things that I do with my clients is to help them discover and establish a sense of peace and safety within themselves. And with practice and consistency, we can train ourselves to get really good at accessing these emotions. And so in IRES, in the practice of IRES, we call this the inner resource. And this inner resource is actually available to each and every one of us if we were able to, or if we were open to exploring that. We all have the capacity to get in touch with a place within us where we feel safe, secure, grounded, centered, strong, at peace, at ease. And these are just some words that people have used to describe the inner resource. And imagine if this place or this feeling sense can be accessed at any time. It's available to you always. How much what a difference it's going to make in how you feel and express yourself in the world, because a lot of the times we react to triggers, we react to people's situations because we feel unsafe, and we've been conditioned to believe certain things, believe how certain things should be. And of course, I mean, it gets much more complicated than this, but the accumulation of our experiences, our past trauma, our conditioning, amongst many other things, will determine how we perceive the world and how we react in response to the world. Now, if we can come to a place of inner safety and inner peace whenever we need, imagine the responses that you will that you will give when you're coming from a place of strength, a place of safety and groundedness and peace. So, you know, it's not some magical thing that that's difficult to achieve. In fact, it's a very simple practice, but the thing is, we do have to be consistent and make the practice a regular practice. That's the only secret, is really regularity, consistency. And, you know, in yogic teachings, you might call this as devotion. You're really committed to the cause. And so over time, with practice and consistency, we can train ourselves to access this place of inner peace. And we can call upon it eventually, we can call upon this even amidst the emergence of negative emotions and even intense emotions. And it is possible to feel both chaos and peace at the same time. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on is that our suffering is really created by our perception of reality. We can decrease our suffering in an instant without changing a single thing in our external environment if we could change the way we see the world. Because if you think about it, we can only experience our world internally, meaning that we receive input from our environment, and we can, then what we do is we analyze, we try to interpret these signals that are coming in and form a story, make sense of the signals that are coming in. But as we're making sense and putting the signals or the messages that are coming in into it, we interpret it in the context of our conditioning, our past experiences, our traumas, inter and multi-generational traumas that are present, that got passed down, collective and societal traumas or conditionings, in addition to our current state of physical, mental, emotional health, our spiritual state, the state of our nervous system, and so on. Ultimately, we are always experiencing the world filtered through our own unique lenses. So, like we said, the conditioning, traumas, and so forth. So it is, if you think about it, when we talk about reality, we can only ever really talk about our reality, because we are only ever experiencing reality that's been filtered through all of our conditionings and traumas and whatnot. So we're always seeing it from a sort of distorted point of view. We're seeing it from our point of view, through our filters, through our conditionings. And so if that's the case, our reality is not really the reality, right? We create our own experiences of reality. It actually doesn't solely depend, or if at all, depend on what's happening externally, because two people can be in the same room, experience exactly the same experience or conversation. Let's say two people can experience the same conversation with the same person, but the two different people will likely hear or pick up the conversation very differently from each other, and what they take from the conversation is going to be very different, and it's going to depend on many of the things that I mentioned just before and more. There are many more variables that we're not talking about, and there are many more variables that we're not even aware of. We don't have the capacity to understand. But there are so many things that are affecting us at any given moment and affecting our experience of reality. So that's what it is, where it's only our experience, our interpretation of reality. And so then our experiences, which is an internal experience, is what causes us to experience suffering or joy or any other emotion, right? If our bodies tell us that we are in a situation that feels threatening, then we're going to perhaps be defensive or aggressive, ways to protect ourselves. We might interpret the expression facial expression of other people as more menacing or ill intent. We might sense ill intent and other negative emotions from that person. Had a neutral expression, right? That has been shown in research that when your nervous system feel like or is giving you signals that you're under threat, you're going to start interpreting your external environment as threatening. Whereas when you're feeling at peace and calm, you're going to start to interpret your environment differently. So your reality changes just as simply as the changes or fluctuates with the changes of your nervous system. So this is just one of the variables, right? And we haven't even taken into account all the other things that we talked about. So understanding this, then, lucky for us, it is our internal experience that we do have some sort of control over. Whereas our external environment is not something that we can really control. And this is another thing, is that many people feel that in order to feel safe that they need to be in control. And being in control of the external environment is really a myth. You are only one very minuscule part in the whole universe. And I guess this is what happens when we allow the ego to take over and we allow ourselves, or we, um, think of ourselves as the center of the universe and think that we have the power to change all of these things that are outside of us. But really, there's so many variables that are at play. Yes, we have influence over our external environment, but we are only one part or one variable out of many. And so when we have expectations where we kind of get the expected outcome, we kind of feel like, yes, I made it happen, or I controlled it, or I did well, and therefore it turned out the way that I wanted. What if it's more like a fluke? Or what if that it was just a coincidence that it happened the way you wanted it to have happened, right? Just as in the same way as when something fails and it doesn't go the way you want. What if that this was not something you could have controlled? Yes, you could have influenced it, but could you have really controlled? All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. My internet got cut off and then the video ended on its own. So I was in the middle of, I was in mid sentence and I got cut off. So here we go, part two then. So we were talking about expectations and control, and how that we really can't, there's so many variables that influence our external environment, and we are one variable. So yes, we have some influence over things that are outside of us, but we're not the only sole decider or person who can really conceivably control everything in such a way that we get what we want every single time. And so understanding this then, that there are going to be times where things align such that we get an outcome that we are happy with, versus other times that it goes the other way. But that oftentimes when we think that we have the capacity to control our external environment, there comes the guilt and the shame when things don't happen the way we expected. And so what I'm trying to say here is that instead of spending so much energy trying to control our external environment, which you really don't have that much control over, let's focus that energy inward, towards your internal environment, where it's an environment that you do have some sort of control over. Okay, what else? So then, step by step, if we are open to new ideas, if we're open to new understanding of how our mind and body works, if we're willing to put in time and effort into practices that help to cultivate new ways of being, it is possible to face uncomfortable emotions while feeling at peace and grounded at the same time. And this is important because when we feel that we're under threat, just like what we said before, our perception of our environment or of our reality is going to be biased, it's going to be distorted, right? But when we're coming from a place of peace and groundedness, we're able to see things more so in a way, more as they are, right? It's going to be less skewed. And so, like I said, even though it sounds like it's not something that makes sense, but it actually can happen. Is that you can feel fear, you can feel, uncomfortable situation, you can feel confused, you can feel, chaos at some level, and still have this sense of peace that grounds you, for you to actually be able to then come from a place where you're able to see things from a wider perspective. You're not coming from a place of fear, you're actually coming from a place of peace and strength and groundedness as you look into maybe even fear, as you feel fear in your body. What's going to help is to find a place of groundedness where you feel safe, and then go into the fear and inquire about, what message it has for you in that moment. So in this way, it is possible to start creating a new reality for ourselves by choosing how we want to experience the world. When we learn to tap into this place of inner peace and safety and security, we're automatically going to see the world in a different way. And it is possible to break out of the karmic cycle of past mistakes and change your destiny. So, if you would like some more support and guidance on your personal journey, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to jump on a call with you to see how I can best support you. Also, as a reminder, I will be launching my second and last round of my group coaching program this year. I only run this program twice a year, so this is going to be the last round for this year. It's a 12-week group coaching program where I support you to help you discover inner peace, that inner peace that resides within, what we had been talking about, to help you to uncover your true purpose in life, help you reconnect with yourself in the deepest way, nurture and strengthen your relationship with yourself and others, and lastly, to educate and empower you to make the right, healthy lifestyle changes that stick for the long term. So if you're interested in joining me for this round, make sure you contact me as soon as possible. I try to keep these groups intimate to maintain good quality coaching for each person in the program, and I only have a few spots left, so please do reach out. We start next week. So book a free discovery call with me. It's a no obligation call. We're just going to have a chat and see if this program is right for you, and then we'll see how to progress from there. So I will post a link below, and you can find more information about the program, or just reach out and let's have a chat. And lastly, I'm excited that I have an interview this Thursday with Darcel Being, who is a mindset coach. I'll be on her podcast this Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and it will be one of three, it's the first of a 3-part series, and this week we'll be talking about developing your intuition and why it is important and how it affects every aspect of your life. So if you want to tune in to the interview this Thursday, make sure that you follow Darcel at Darcel Being at on Instagram. The interview will be happening on Instagram Live. So I'll make sure I post up that information so you know where to find it. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed our session. Please do let me know what your biggest takeaway was, what your thoughts are. I love to hear from you. And yeah, until next week, then I will. Yes, I think that's all I have for you guys. I'll see you next week. Take care now. Bye.